May I?
Yes.
That second phone conversation you had with John, do you know about what time that was?
I don't, it would be after 12:15, but before 12:30 approximately, between that.
Were you still driving when you had that conversation?
Yes.
And at some point you told us you arrived at your sister's home and went in.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to move forward now to when you were inside the house. Tell us generally when you first got there and saw everybody, what were you doing?
I just sat down at the table. I started talking to them. We were listening to music. Typical night.
Okay. Anything stand out as far as music or interaction with the group?
No, we were just laughing, telling stories. At one point, I'm not sure if it was at some point, my other nephew had been over my house and had shown me this video on his phone, and it was a family inside joke. The video, it was a music video from a long time ago. And so I was telling my other niece and nephew, oh my gosh, you have to see this video. It's hysterical. And then we started playing it and watching it.
What was the video?
It's Raining Men.
Did that get a lot of playtime during that get-together?
Well, I have one sister who sometimes has a little too much to drink, takes out an umbrella, and will dance. So it's a family joke.
While you were at your sister's house, what area of the house were you spending time in?
And I was in the kitchen.
What was the mood of everybody in the house, as far as you remember?
Everybody was in a great mood.
Was there any fighting?
No.
Any arguing?
No.
Any violence?
No.
Was it a celebratory mood?
Yes.
As you were in the house, were you waiting for anybody else that you expected to come?
Yes, I was expecting John and Karen to come.
At some point when you were in the kitchen, or let me ask you a little background. As you're in the kitchen of that house, can you see outside from the kitchen area?
They had blinds or something down, but if the blinds were up, you could see out.
Were the blinds up?
No.
At any point were you able to see outside from inside the house?
From the front door, yes.
Is the front door, is it glass?
Yes.
At some point when you were with everybody in the celebration, did you have a chance to look outside?
Yes.
And when you looked outside, what did you see?
I saw a dark SUV out front.
Did you know whose SUV that was?
I believed it was Karen's.
Could you see who was in it?
No.
At that point of night, what does the weather look like from the front door?
It's dark and it's snowing, and I could see, brake lights.
Did you see if that SUV moved at all?
I didn't see the SUV actually move, but I saw it in a few different locations.
How many times did you look out?
Can't give you an exact number of how many times I looked out. I can tell you I saw the vehicle first straight out from the front door. Then I saw it up at the flagpole, and then I saw it further up from the flagpole.
Were you studying the car at all?
No, it was quick glances.
Did you have any reason to study it?
No.
What were you expecting was going to happen?
I was expecting John and Karen to come into the house.
Did they ever make it in the house?
No, they did not.
As you were waiting, were you doing anything else in addition to waiting for them to come in?
Yes, so I was sitting at the table. Someone made mention of a car out front, so I got up, went to the door, looked out, and then I would go back to the table, and where we were just all laughing, talking, playing music, just hanging out, not really thinking much about anything.
Did you ever reach out to John when you thought the car out front was the defendant's car with John in it? Did you ever reach out to him?
Yes, I did.
How did you reach out to him?
I texted him.
Do you know if there was a phone call that was made to you before 12:30? A 7-second phone call?
From John?
Yes.
I don't.
You mentioned you had spoken to him about directions. Is that the last time you heard his voice?
Yes.
When the car was out front, did you exchange text messages, or were you simply texting him?
I was texting him.
Do you remember what you were texting him?
The first time I said here,
What do you mean by here? Was that
like
exclamation point?
here question mark, because that's when I saw the car.
You were wondering whether that was him?
Yes.
Did you send any other text messages that you can remember?
After I saw the car move locations, when I saw it go up to the flagpole, I said, pull behind me.
And do you remember any other communications you had with him? Was he texting you anything?
No,
Did he ever text you again that night?
he never texted me again.
Never called again?
No.
Did you continue to text him over the next 15, 20 minutes?
I did, yes.
And so at some point, did you realize that John O'Keefe and the defendant weren't coming in the house?
Yes, when the car was gone.
Did you ever go outside through the storm down to the flagpole to speak to them?
No.
Why not?
Why would I?
I was just asking. All right.
I had no reason to.
So when you were in the house, at some point, did you notice that that car was gone?
Yes.
Were you marking the time or keeping track of it?
No.
After you didn't see the defendant's car anymore, did you stay?
Yes.
How long do you think you stayed for at the house?
I stayed till about around 1:30, 1:45-ish.
Did anybody else come in the house up until 1:45?
No.
Did people leave at certain times?
Yes, people did leave.
Who was the first to leave?
Brian Higgins?
Do you remember about what time he left?
I don't.
And after Mr. Higgins left, do you know who left?
I'm not I believe it was us, and then my niece Caitlin was also like at the door. It was kind of in a row. Brian left, and then a little bit later, I think it was, myself, Matt, Julie, and Sarah left. But Caitlin was at the door. I believe she was waiting for her ride.
How much longer after Mr. Higgins left did you leave?
Maybe a half. I honestly can't say. I think he was there for a while I was there. So maybe he left anywhere from 15 minutes, approximately 15, 20 minutes before I did, or maybe a little more.
You mentioned that you had left the waterfall after midnight,
Yes.
and you had phone calls with Mr. O'Keefe along the way.
Yes.
Do you know that there are phone records with your text messages and phone calls in them?
Yes.
And do you know whether your phone records reflect the time of your calls with Mr. O'Keefe
Yes.
and your text messages?
Yes.
When you were texting Mr. O'Keefe, when the Lexus or the car was in front of the house, rather, was Mr. Higgins still there?
Yes.
What are some of the things that everybody did along that night before you left? What happened in there?
What happened inside the house?
Yeah.
Nothing. We basically just sat around the table, talked, laughed, listened to music, chit-chatted.
Celebratory?
Yes.
Was there ever any fighting?
No, none at all.
Any arguing?
None at all.
Any physical interaction?
No, none.
When you decided to leave that night, did you say around 1:45-ish?
Yes.
Okay. When you left around 1:45, was there any events that happened that night that would cause you unrest or excitement or your heartbeat to raise?
No.
When you decided to leave, you and your husband, where were you going to go?
We were dropping off Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, and then we were going home.
Had you planned on dropping them off earlier in the night?
No, when we got there, Julie's brother had pulled up to pick them up, and
I won't ask you what was said because you weren't there.
Oh, okay.
At some point, did you come to an understanding that you would give them a ride home?
Yes.
Did you offer?
Yes.
Who was going to drive home between you and your husband?
Matt drove home.
When you left, I want you to describe as you step out into the driveway or the walkway. Was it the front door or side door, if you remember?
I walked out the front door.
Is the weather like it was when you first got there?
No, it's picked up.
Tell us what you mean by it's picked up.
So as I walk out, you kind of go, the walkway is to the left. So I walk down the steps, I go to the left. The snow was coming, it was cold, the wind was picking up. So I kind of just like curled up and ran to my car quick to get in.
What part of the car did you get into?
Front passenger,
Who was driving?
Matt.
And where were the other two people?
Sarah and Julie were in the back seat.
Who was in which spot?
I'm not exactly sure.
So both of the young women were in the back seat?
Yes.
Was there any conversation when you got into the car?
We got in the car and they were teasing me
Why were they teasing you?
because I had like bread and maybe peanut butter in my car.
Why did you have bread and peanut butter in your car?
I had my niece for the week, and I was dragging her like to all my kids' sporting events. So we'd go from like one game to another game to a practice. So sometimes instead of always giving her McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, I'd try to throw her a peanut butter sandwich.
And they were making fun of you?
Yeah,
As the car backs out of the driveway, tell us what you're doing.
I'm talking to the girls.
You just moved your head.
Yes,
Does that mean anything?
yes.
Tell us.
They were both sitting behind me, so I was like turning and, chatting and talking.
After your husband pulls out of the driveway, do you start to drive home?
Yes,
If the house is on my right and you're driving, are you in the passenger seat closest to the house or furthest away?
passenger seat closest.
So you're driving, if you look at a picture of the house, you would be driving from right to left?
Yes.
So as you start to drive, or your husband starts to drive the car, what direction are you looking in, if you remember?
The back seat.
Did you drive by the front of the house, do you know?
We pulled out of the driveway and went up Chapman.
Okay. And your husband and you passed by the front of the house?
Yes.
Did you pass by the flagpole?
Yes.
Were you looking at the flagpole?
No.
And how dark was it at that point?
It was dark.
Snow?
Yes.
As you're passing the flagpole, do you hear or see anything remarkable?
No, I'm not really paying attention. I'm just chatting to the girls, and Matt's just focusing on driving.
When you're talking to the girls and they're making fun of you, what's the mood in the car?
We're all laughing and joking.
Where do you go next?
We drive Julie Nagel home.
After you drop off Miss Nagle, where do you go?
We drop off Sarah Levinson.
Is the weather constant?
Yes.
After you drop off the young woman in separate spots, where do you go?
We went home.
Can you tell us when you get home what happens next?
We go in the house. I go up to bed. Matt makes himself a snack and then joins me upstairs.
Do you have a telephone?
Yes.
An iPhone?
Yes.
When you go to bed, do you stay up at all?
Yes.
Do you use your iPhone?
Yes, I do.
What were you doing?
I texted a few people, and then I did a couple of Google searches.
And what were the searches for?
One, my daughter had played in a basketball game earlier in the night, and it was a very good game, so I went and I read the report on it. And then my other daughter had an offer to play on a basketball team, so we had to make a decision about whether or not we were going to accept the spot. So I was just looking up that basketball club.
Other than those regular searches that one would do, was there anything remarkable about what you were searching at 2:27, that time frame?
No.
After you were looking at websites for your child's sports, what did you do?
I put my phone down and went to sleep.
And up to that point, had there been any discord or fighting or arguments in your world?
No.
Peaceful night?
Yes.
Did you go to sleep, Miss McCabe?
Yes.
The reality is you did end up going to the scene, correct?
I did.
And you accompanied, I don't want to use a word that you'll challenge, you went with Trooper Proctor, correct?
I took my cruiser to 34
Okay.
Fairview, yes.
You were there at the same time Trooper Proctor was?
Yes.
And you were aware that the CARS team was there so that they could document the scene, correct?
I don't know what the purpose of the drone was. I'm not familiar with that section. I thought I answered that question. I'm not familiar with what they do.
But you do believe that as you sit here, you were there, we weren't. You do
Right.
believe that that's the reason that they were there was to document the scene.
Put up a drone.
Okay.
I don't know what you mean by document. I don't know if it was to photograph, I guess, which if you mean by document photograph, I guess it could, I would agree. If it means take measurements, I wouldn't know.
Okay. Did you tell any of the members of the CARS team where you believed John's body was?
I believe it was Trooper Proctor, but I believe he was there, yes.
Trooper Proctor obviously was not there when John's body was there either, correct?
That is correct,
So
yes.
he would have gotten that information.
From you. That is correct.
So now that's 3 people.
It's probably more, quite honestly, yeah.
Well, I'm just talking about this report.
Correct.
CARS report. That's 3 people in line. None of them saw John's body, John O'Keefe's body, as it lay in the lawn when he was recovered.
That is correct, yes.
And there's no photographs
Of,
of Mr. O'Keefe
oh, no.
at the location.
No, we wouldn't, nobody would photograph somebody undergoing life-saving measures. Wouldn't be appropriate.
There's no video, specifically.
They wouldn't take video of somebody undergoing
there's
life-saving measurements
There's no
either.
body cam.
We don't have body cameras.
There's no dash cam that shows it.
Well, dash cameras would be on the road. Mr. O'Keefe was approximately 8 to 10 feet off the road.
Well, hang on a second. You're not sure where Mr. O'Keefe was because you never saw him.
That's why I used a range, yes.
Right.
I know where the blood was. I know where the glass was.
Right. You don't know if he was 7 to 9 feet off. If he
That's
was
correct.
4 to 12 feet off. You can't say.
I could, only approximately. You are correct, yes.
You did meet with Officer Seraph. You met with all the officers when you arrived at the scene, correct?
Yes,
And Officer Seraph had been there from the beginning of the morning.
yes.
Officer Seraph didn't report to you at that time any statements attributable to my client, did he?
He did not know.
You later went back to 34 Fairview with Sergeant Lank.
That's correct.
And you rode back, did you ride back to Canton PD with Sergeant Lank or separate cruisers?
Which time? I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
That's a vague question on my part. You went back to 34 Fairview with just Officer Lank, and you described the circumstance in which you went in, you were let in by Brian Albert, he went to the kitchen, you were in the family room or some other place.
Right by the kitchen, yeah.
Right by the
room
kitchen.
off the kitchen, yes.
Okay, so right next to where he was interviewing
That's correct.
Jennifer McCabe.
Yes.
Did you ride back from that meeting with, or that event to Canton PD with Sergeant Lank?
Yes.
And Sergeant Lank didn't say anything to you about his interview with Jennifer McCabe at that time?
I don't recall our conversation on the way back.
Okay. And you didn't write a report about any conversation that you had with Officer Seraph? You didn't write a report about any conversation you had with Sergeant Lank?
No, they're responsible for writing their own reports.
Got it. You did say that let me back up and ask a different question. You testified about a year ago in another proceeding. You talked a little bit about the evidence collection of the biological material, the blood, or I'm guessing at that time, presumed blood. You haven't done any testing.
That's correct, yes, sir.
But you assumed it was blood just because of your experience and it looked like it could be blood on the street.
That's correct.
How far were you from Canton PD? Approximately. A drive.
Mile and a half.
Mile and a half. You had your cruiser with you,
I had my personal vehicle with me.
your personal vehicle. In other words, you were ambulatory. You could get from point A to point B if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was the scene supervisor. I wasn't leaving the scene.
Okay. But you also had subordinate folks at the scene that you could have dispatched had you wanted to.
Correct.
They all had cruisers.
Yes, they did.
Or personal vehicles, I'm not sure which.
I'm sorry?
Or personal vehicles, I'm not sure which.
I was the only one with a personal vehicle. Detective Sergeant Lank had a Toyota Tundra pickup truck that is not marked, but it's assigned to our detective unit.
So if you wished to, as the ranking officer at the scene, you could have dispatched one or more of those officers to run an errand, to go do something in furtherance of the investigation, had you wanted to.
Yeah, I actually did that.
Okay, you did. What did
Yes.
you do in that regard?
Remember, I sent Sergeant Good to get the leaf blower.
Got it. You also know that Canton PD has evidence collection bags at Canton PD.
Yes.
You also know that they have materials and tools to gather biological material, correct?
We do have swabs, yes.
And those swabs go in little containers to maintain their sanitary nature, correct?
That is correct,
In
yes.
other words, if you see a blood stain, you don't just walk up with a Kleenex that you find on the ground and wipe it up. There's your blood stain. There is a process for gathering that type of evidence, correct?
Sure, if you're looking for DNA, you can use a bloody Kleenex, to your point.
It'd be kind of an emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. My point exactly.
But if you're a mile from the Canton PD,
Yeah,
you could have gone back and done a swab,
could have.
but you didn't.
Didn't want to because of the weather, because you just said because it's an emergency, and we thought it was an emergency there. I mean, the storm was coming down terribly, and I believe if we didn't collect that biological matter, we weren't going to get that biological matter.
But Canton PD was a mile and a half away, 4 or 5 minutes.
In a blizzard,
Still, in a blizzard, look, it's 3 minutes in good weather, probably 4, 5, 6 minutes in a blizzard, correct?
I'm not sure.
So let's call it 12, 15 minutes. You certainly could have gone back. If you wanted to, you could have dispatched one of your officers to go back and get swabs and properly collect the blood material. Right?
Sure, and I believed 15 minutes would have made a difference.
And what you did instead is, well, 15 minutes would have made a difference, but you asked Sergeant Good to drive to his house and get a leaf blower.
Yes, and while he was doing that, we were documenting the scene with photographs.
You could have documented the scene with photographs even if you went back and get a swab. What's the difference?
Because we were ongoing. It was ongoing. I wasn't leaving the scene.
I didn't ask you to leave the scene. I didn't ask if you were
I
leaving the scene.
needed the other officers. We talked about scene security. I already let one officer go. I now have 3 left. We're securing that scene.
So you saw pink stains in the snow, correct?
That's correct.
And you said, Officer Good, probably called him Sean, Sarge, go home and get a leaf blower. Right?
That is correct.
Could have said, Officer Mulaney, get your butt over to Canton PD and pick up 10 swabs, correct?
He wouldn't have had access to the swabs.
Oh, so now one of your officers could have gotten the swabs, even if the lieutenant, a ranking lieutenant, had dispatched him to go get a swab.
Because he doesn't have access to the BCI, the Office of BCI, where our stuff is kept.
Could you have made a phone call?
No, nobody there would have had access at that time. It was only Officer Dever on the desk.
So you're the only person that could have gotten those swabs?
Sergeant Lang could have gotten them as well.
So Sergeant Lang could have too,
Sure.
but you didn't say that.
No, definitely didn't.
Okay. What you did do, however, is you went to the neighbor's house. That would be Tom Keller, correct?
The lieutenant of detectives, yes.
Right. And Lieutenant Keller gave you red Solo cups.
Yes. I asked for plastic or glass containers. He had solo cups, and I utilized them.
The same kind of Solo cups that we all see at backyard barbecues.
Yep, they hold liquid terrifically.
They're also not sealed, correct?
They are not.
They're also not used normally. I mean, they were here. They're not normally used for evidence collection, correct?
Oh, absolutely not.
And then you decided you needed to transport that very important biological material back to Canton PD for storage and safekeeping, correct?
That's correct.
And why was it important to transport that blood material so quickly? What are the factors that you considered, weighed and balanced, in terms of getting that material back to Canton PD in good condition, in sanitary condition?
So a criminalist could extract a proper DNA sample.
What would happen, for instance, if that blood material, I don't know, were contaminated?
Contaminated how?
You tell me. You're the professional.
So DNA is pretty hardy, pretty forensically stable. The only things that are going to harm it are radiation, ultraviolet light, harsh chemicals such as bleach. That's not present here. I wasn't. Then you would have 2 sets of DNA when it's tested, which would benefit you.
Well, depends on whose DNA it is.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right. Yeah, have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
While you were, I'm going to stay on this for a second. So obviously there's a reason why blood swabs or biological swabs are handled with such care. For instance, a DNA analyst is going to put on gloves.
Correct.
Oftentimes they're going to put on a mask, right?
I don't know about that.
Oftentimes they put on goggles. Is that right?
It depends what they're testing.
Right.
Yeah.
But in order to go out and collect something, you'll see CSI, crime scene investigators, in full body suits when you
Sure.
walk into a crime scene.
Yeah, you can.
Because you don't want to contaminate the scene with your own hair off your arm or an eyelash falling into a blood stain, correct?
That is correct.
Right. So there are protocols. I mean, you said just a second ago, Mr. Gallagher, well, it's DNA. Unless somebody pours bleach in it, you're pretty much golden, right? That's not quite the fact, is it?
And that's not quite what I said.
No, it's not quite what you said. You were suggesting that it's hardy enough that it doesn't really matter
No.
if it's contaminated or not. If there's multiple people's DNA, it just benefits everybody.
No, I simply asked what you meant by contamination.
Okay. So it could be contaminated with debris, is that right?
Sure, it can.
It could be contaminated with other people's DNA, is that right?
It can.
It could be contaminated with foreign items, foreign either aerosols or somebody's spittle when they're talking, correct?
Sure.
Contaminated with 1,000 things.
Hypothetically.
Right.
They
Of course, these solo cups didn't have lids on them, right?
did not.
They were open.
Yes.
You didn't photograph where you picked up the samples.
No.
You didn't document where you picked up the samples.
No.
So if the samples were in 6, how many solo cups were there?
6.
6 solo cups. We don't know as we sit here where each of those solo cups' contents came from specifically, do we?
Specifically, no.
Okay. Then those solo cups with no lids were placed into a bag, right?
That's correct.
You said on direct examination that this was a brown paper bag, right?
It is. Stop and Shop, I believe.
And you said that Stop and Shop bag is, other than having the words Stop and Shop on it versus evidence on it, basically the one and the same thing.
Same dimensions, made out of the same materials, yes.
Right. But with an evidence bag, you know exactly where it came from and who's handling it.
Not necessarily.
Comes from a manufacturer
Sure.
whose job it is to secure those bags so that they are not mishandled, so they can have some sort of bona fides that they're clean and ready to accept evidence. In, say, for instance, I don't know, the investigation of a homicide of a police officer.
Okay.
Important stuff, right?
We're not at a homicide of a police
I
officer
didn't
at
ask
this
you that.
point.
I'm just talking about evidence bags in general. Evidence bags in general. In other words, I'm trying to think of some of the most important investigations around. The manufacturers of those evidence bags manufacture them and send them in a way so that their bona fides, the provenance of those bags, is maintained, correct, and protected.
That's the way they ship them, yes.
Right. And Canton PD pays extra money for those bags for that very purpose.
I'm sure they do,
You
yes.
mentioned almost tongue-in-cheek, look, except for the price,
Yeah.
they're probably pretty close.
Yes.
There's a reason that there's a price difference, right?
What would the reason? What's the reason?
Well, it's not the shop. I can go pay 10 cents
Yeah.
for that bag because I don't really give a hoot where it's been or who's handling it. Right? It's got my milk and my eggs in it. Really don't care.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they price it because of how they package it. I don't have any knowledge of
Well,
that.
you're the one that mentioned the price. I'm just
Oh,
trying
no,
to
no,
make a
no.
point.
Yeah, I
There's a
agree
reason.
with you on that.
I'm sorry. We're speaking over each other. Okay.
I apologize.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher. You gotta wait for me.
Yep.
There's a reason. My point is there's a reason, right?
Yes.
That evidence bags are more expensive because there is a way they're manufactured and they're taken care of, and Canton PD is willing to pay that extra price, like every other law enforcement agency, because of that. Correct? All right. So they're not quite the same, are they?
No.
Those solo cups were placed in the evidence bag uncovered.
Yes.
The evidence bag was then placed in Sergeant Lank's vehicle.
It was closed and Sergeant Lang transported it to his vehicle. Yes.
Okay. When you say closed, you mean the top of it was rolled up?
Correct.
Or folded over?
Correct.
Okay. It wasn't forensically sealed.
Not at that time, no.
There was no evidence tape that went on it.
Not at that time, no.
Matter of fact, the cups were still open and could slosh around. Assume they melted.
Yes,
There's liquid blood and liquid water, like
that's correct.
snow.
That's correct.
And you indicated that those were, at least you believe, those were placed in an evidence locker, temporary evidence locker, correct?
No, the blood samples were put in a refrigerated unit.
My mistake. I thought the refrigerator was the temporary storage locker. It's different?
Yes, lockers are not refrigerated. That's where the glass would go into a locker.
Okay. This was placed into an evidence refrigerator.
That's correct.
That was to maintain the integrity of the sample, the biological sample inside the cups, correct?
That's correct.
Do you have an evidence log of that?
I don't know.
You've never seen an evidence log indicating that those were actually put into a refrigerated evidence locker.
I removed them myself, so I know they were in the refrigerated unit
When did you remove them?
on February 1st.
Right. We're talking about January 29th. They were taken to Canton PD by Officer Lang, Sergeant Lang, on January 29th. I'm just asking, well, let me ask a foundational question. Does Canton PD maintain something called evidence logs?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not the evidence officer.
No.
There is, it's all computerized.
Right.
So like I explained earlier, when they do get logged in, the officer puts the description of the property, hits the space bar, and the computer generates an evidence number.
Right. And that evidence number is associated with just that piece of evidence.
Just that piece of evidence, correct.
And every time it's checked out or put back in, there is a log created, correct?
Yeah, they do it by computer, yes.
It's a digital fingerprint.
Correct.
All right. I mean, you're a former narco specialist, right? Mm-hmm. You did narcotics for years, right?
I did.
Drugs, about the most sensitive thing out there, right? I mean, you get a bottle of fentanyl. You're not just going to go set it on the evidence subject's desk. You're going to make sure that damn thing gets logged exactly how it's supposed to, correct?
Of course.
Because it needs to have a trace of where it goes and who touches it and who has access to it, correct?
That is correct.
You've never seen an evidence log for these items that were taken from 34 Fairview and supposedly put into the, well, not supposedly because you took them out, and ultimately went into a refrigerated evidence locker.
Yeah, I wouldn't have access to the evidence log. Our evidence room is a very strict process. There's only 2 people that can even have access to the permanent, once it goes into permanent evidence. And it's the admin sergeant that changes the custody when it comes out for court, if an item has to come out for court, or if it has to be transported to another agency, or if an officer needs it removed from evidence for further inspection, the admin sergeant would take care of that.
That's the way it's...
Mr. Jackson, you're not going to finish today, right?
No, I'm not.
In 2 minutes.
Two questions, and I'm also...
All right, 2 questions.
Thank you. That's the way it's supposed to work, correct?
Yes.
But you've never, as you sit here, you've never seen an evidence log determining where that blood went and who was handling it between January 29th and February 1st.
I have never seen an evidence log.
That's all I had, Robert, at least at this time.
Isn't it correct that for hypothermia in the presence of Wisniewski's ulcers or spots, that you have to have a predominance of the stomach covered by the spots for them to be Wisniewski ulcers?
I think there's different levels and different grades.
In hypothermia, particularly death from hypothermia, wouldn't you expect to see a predominance of those ulcers, meaning they take up most of the stomach lining? Isn't that what you would expect to see?
Not always. I have seen that. I have also seen cases with much fewer spots, as you refer to them.
But isn't the majority of the cases that you have seen where someone has actually died from hypothermia that the ulcers predominate, take up greater than 50% of the stomach?
Yes.
And what percentage of the, and I'm trying to avoid putting it up again, so what percentage of the gastric mucosa of Mr. O'Keefe would you estimate is taken up by the ulcers that you have identified?
I would say somewhere between 10, 15%.
Just 10 and 15%. Thank you. Now, if we could look to the issue of continuing with hypothermia. Let's go to frostbite. Do you note any evidence of frostbite on the decedent, Mr. O'Keefe?
No, I did not.
Do you know what the weather conditions were in Canton, New York on the early morning? I'm sorry, I keep saying Canton, New York. My apologies. Do you know the weather conditions in Canton, Massachusetts, starting at midnight on January 29, 2022, going through 6 a.m. on January 29, 2022?
It was very cold. There was a blizzard coming.
They called it a nor'easter, right?
Correct.
And when you say very cold, in addition to very cold, do you recall whether there were gusting winds?
I believe so.
And do you understand that when there's a very cold temperature in Fahrenheit and you add gusting winds, that is called, when you apply the two together, that's called wind chill, right?
Correct.
And with wind chill, doesn't the phenomenon of wind chill mean that the wind combined with the temperature brings the actual temperature down, and in addition to bringing it down, temperature in a wind chill calculation, it also has a physical effect on the body, correct? Wind chill. Doesn't wind chill also cause greater effects than if there was no wind?
Correct.
So in medical terms, the wind synergizes with the temperature and exacerbates the effect on a human.
Correct.
And with a wind chill, isn't it correct that you would have a greater chance of frostbite than if there was no wind chill effect at all?
Yes.
So, you saw no signs of frostbite on Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
At the time of my examination and at the time of autopsy, no, I did not.
Did you see frostbite at any other time with regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
I only examined him at the time of autopsy.
So, at the only time you examined him, which is at the time of autopsy, you had zero signs of frostbite, correct?
Correct.
Dr. Scordi-Bello, now that you have gone through this part of your examination here today, would you like to amend in any way your opinions as to whether hypothermia was any cause of the death of Mr. O'Keefe?
No, I don't. I still believe that there were hypothermic signs.
Hypothermic signs, correct?
Yes.
I'd like to move to another topic area, please. You did not include in your autopsy in any fashion any discussion of whether Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with a motor vehicle accident, did you?
No, I did not.
In fact, there were no injuries consistent with a motor vehicle impact on Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Sustained.
Did you evaluate it all in your autopsy whether Mr. O'Keefe had any injuries consistent with a motor vehicle accident?
I'll allow that.
Yes, I did examine his lower extremities. That is protocol in any case of suspected impact with a motor vehicle. So I did examine his legs, and I did not see any evidence of an impact site.
And could you elaborate to the jury what you mean by no evidence of an impact site?
I'm going to sustain that objection.
What do you mean in your answer, no evidence of impact injuries?
I'll allow that.
What I look for is some sort of bruise, either on the outside of the leg or bleeding on the inside after the skin is reflected in the soft tissues, or any fracture of the bones of the legs. I did not observe those things.
That was going to be my question. You did not observe any of those things, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to turn to, please, the face of the decedent in your analysis that you discussed on direct examination of that area of the decedent. You talked about ecchymosis, you recall that?
Yes.
In medical literature, there's a synonym for ecchymosis. It's sometimes referred to as raccoon eyes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Ecchymosis doesn't cause a laceration to an eyelid, does it?
No.
Ecchymosis does not cause a laceration to a nose, does it?
There was an abrasion on the nose, but no, the answer is no.
Correct. So ecchymosis doesn't cause a laceration to the nose. Correct?
Correct.
Did your report at all evaluate whether there was any significance of the laceration to the eyelid that you spoke about in your direct testimony?
What do you mean?
Other than just noting that there was a laceration to the eyelid, did your report at all evaluate the potential significance, if any, of that laceration to the eyelid?
I noted it and photographed it, and it was part of the totality of the blunt impact injuries that I noted on both the face and the head.
Do you believe that the laceration to the eyelid could be caused by a blunt impact injury?
A laceration, by definition, is a blunt impact injury.
Do you believe the eyelid laceration was caused by a blunt impact injury from falling backwards and hitting one's head?
Not from falling backwards and hitting one's head, but that area at some point came in contact with a blunt object or surface.
Okay, if I could follow up on that, please. So you agree that if a person falls and hits the back of their head, that they cannot sustain an eyelid injury, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And if somebody falls backward and hits their head, they can't sustain, from that impacted back of the head, a laceration to the nose, correct?
Correct.
So if we could, Mr. Wolk, and with Your Honor's permission, publish which is already in evidence, which are depictions. Let's start out with, please, the laceration to the right eyelid. And Dr. Scordi-Bello, is this the laceration to the right eyelid that we've been talking about of Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And that injury could not be caused by a fall backwards and one hitting their head, correct?
No.
I'm sorry, we'll just need, and then I'm going to repeat the question. Can you state your answer again? Let me that injury to the right eyelid, that laceration, could not be caused by someone falling backwards and hitting their head, correct?
Correct.
Bear with me one moment, Your Honor. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. Show Mr. Brennan.
Your Honor, I erroneously assumed that that picture was in evidence, and I would like to now properly lay the foundation if I could.
Okay.
Dr. Scordi-Bello, you see what's in front of you. Can we mark this?
So, Mr. Brennan, are you objecting to that coming into evidence? Okay, so let's just put it in
Okay.
evidence.
165.
Thank you.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Scordi-Bello, I place before you what is in evidence now is 165. And Your Honor, may I have Mr. Wolk publish
Yes.
165? Thank you, Mr. Wolk. So, Dr. Scordi-Bello, that laceration to the right eyelid could not be caused by a fall backwards where someone hits the back of the head, correct?
Correct.
So that injury you've called, what do you label that category? Traumatic, did you use that phraseology?
Blunt
Blunt
impact.
impact. So that's a blunt, in your opinion, that's a blunt impact injury, correct?
Correct.
So is it correct that that injury had to occur in some manner other than falling backwards and hitting one's head?
Yes.
And is that injury consistent or inconsistent with a punch?
I'll allow it.
Could be consistent.
If we could, Mr. Woke, have the laceration to the nose. I'm sorry, hold off on a moment. Your Honor, Mr. Brennan has agreed to stipulate that this going
Okay,
into
so like we can mark it.
166.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Scordi-Bello, I have put before you what is in evidence is 166, and Your Honor may, Mr. Wolf, publish.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Scordi-Bello, does that exhibit fairly and accurately depict the laceration to the nose of Mr. O'Keefe?
Yeah, it's an abrasion. I described it as an abrasion, as a scrape.
So you would classify that as a scrape?
Yes.
That scrape could not be caused by someone falling backwards and hitting the back of their head, could it?
Not by a single event, no.
You can take that down, Mr. Wolf. On your direct testimony, you talked about injuries to the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And is it correct that you, in your autopsy report, did not determine the cause of those wounds to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm.
That's correct.
With Your Honor's permission, I would like to Mr. Brennan. Your Honor, Mr. Brennan has agreed to
Okay.
stipulate into evidence these two photographs. May I please have them
Yes.
marked as next in evidence?
Exhibits 167 and 168.
Thank you.
I'm going to do the same thing, if I may, Dr. Shorty-Bello. I'm going to leave these with you, but I'm also going to, with the court's permission, have them published.
Okay.
Use whatever one best allow you to answer the question. Your Honor, may I have Mr. Wolf publish those two? Thank you. With regard to what is on the screen, am I correct that you noted these injuries and these wounds to Mr. O'Keefe in your autopsy report?
Yes,
And am I correct that you noted that there was a pattern to those wounds?
correct.
And although you noted there was a pattern to the wounds, you were not able to determine the cause of those pattern wounds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are those injuries consistent with a dog bite?
Based on our answer to the last question, ask something else.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Ask another question, sustained.
Can you identify any cause of those injuries that would be consistent with what is depicted on the screen? Objection.
So, can you answer that, Doctor?
I cannot.
You can take that down, Mr. Wolf. Thank you. Do you recall discussing at all on your direct examination? Well, let me ask it this way. Did you evaluate at all in your autopsy a gray hoodie sweatshirt of Mr. O'Keefe?
No, I did not.
So, were you aware that there was clothing associated with Mr. O'Keefe when he came as part of the autopsy?
He did not have any clothing that came to us. The clothing was removed at the hospital and was packaged and I believe submitted as evidence.
So the clothing of Mr. O'Keefe, a t-shirt or a hoodie, didn't make its way to you?
No?
You were unable to reach a determination as to the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
That is correct.
So you had doubts about the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, and you consider those doubts reasonable?
Sustained. Sustained.
you were not able to reach a determination as to the manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And manner of death, as you've testified, includes the circumstances surrounding death in addition to the medical analysis that you performed. Okay.
I'm sustaining it, asked and answered.
Okay, having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory about Michael Proctor being the one to write the report on the analysis of the waterfall video?
Sir, I only obtained a copy of the surveillance video. I
Right.
did not do any analysis on the video.
That's my question. It was Michael Proctor who did the analysis, correct?
Yes,
And that, by the way, I said waterfall. Is that C.F. McCarthy's there, or is that waterfall?
this is C.F. McCarthy's.
Okay, I meant C.F. McCarthy's. He was the one to review that video, correct?
Yes, again, I only got a copy of the surveillance video.
Sure.
I did not do any
And
analysis.
with regard to the waterfall bar and grill, that was another circumstance where you and Sergeant Buchanan were the ones to retrieve the video, correct?
Yes,
But again, lead investigator Michael Proctor was the one to analyze the video and write the report on it, correct?
yes, I would have to see that report as well, sir.
Now, another member of your unit was Trooper David DeChico, correct?
Yes,
Within your unit, did Trooper DeChico have a nickname for a first name?
Objection.
May we approach? Trooper, in terms of the troopers that were in your unit as of January 29th of 2022, which members of the unit had the least amount of time in the unit at that time?
I don't recall.
Were you one of the newer members of the unit?
As of January of 2022?
Yes.
Yes,
Trooper Michael Proctor had more experience than you did as of January 29th of 2022, correct?
he could have. He'd been on the job longer.
Okay, well, if he had been on the job longer, then certainly that means that he did have more experience, correct?
It depends.
You attended the autopsy of John O'Keefe on January 31st of
I did.
2022. And with regard to other members of your unit, you were the only one to attend that autopsy?
Yes,
That was done at the medical examiner's office
the medical examiner's office in Sandwich, Massachusetts.
in Sandwich, Mass. And it was Dr. Irene Scorti-Bello who performed the autopsy, correct?
Yes,
Had you met her prior to that day?
no,
Had you spoken to her prior to that day?
no,
Did you know before the autopsy was performed that your former colleague, lead investigator Michael Proctor, had discussed the case with Dr. Scorti-Bello without telling us what you knew of what was said?
Objection.
With regard to Dr. Scorti-Bello's knowledge of what the state police theory was of what happened, did you have to explain that, or was it your understanding she already knew what your theory was?
Objection.
Mrs. Staines, you can ask that differently.
what, if any, conversations did you have with Dr. Scorti-Bello about what your unit's theory was about what happened to John O'Keefe?
There was no theory.
Okay. You did not provide any theory to her, correct?
I did not provide a theory.
You learned at the autopsy from your observations that John O'Keefe had 2 black eyes and a swollen right eye, correct?
Yes.
You also learned that there was a small cut above his right eye, correct?
Yes.
And there was a small abrasion on the left side of his nose, correct?
I would have to reference the report for the exact words.
Okay. If I may have a moment. May I approach, Your Honor?
Do you want this one back?
Oh, please, thank you. So I've placed another document in front of you. Just take a look, read it silently to yourself, and look up at me when you're done. And I would direct your attention to the second page for the question I just asked you. Having reviewed that report, Trooper, is your memory refreshed as to whether you observed a small abrasion on the left side of John O'Keefe's nose?
Yes.
Now, was this the first autopsy that you had attended, or had you attended ones in the past?
I cannot recall.
It could have been the first one?
Most likely not.
When you're attending an autopsy as a member of the CPAC unit or the Norfolk Detectives unit, you are expecting that the medical examiner is going to examine the body, correct?
Yes.
And you're there to witness that examination, correct?
Yes.
At the end of the examination, you are expecting that there will be a determination as to cause and manner of death, correct?
Not.
In this case, when the autopsy ended, you left the medical examiner's office, correct?
Yes.
When you left, your understanding was that the cause and manner of death was still undetermined, correct?
Objection.
You knew when you left that Dr. Scorti-Bello had seen the scratches or bites or injuries to John O'Keefe's arms, correct?
Objection.
You knew when you left that in your presence, Dr. Scorti-Bello had seen the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm.
Object to the line of questioning.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand up.